whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
I tell you what, Mary, that extra hour in bed was completely pointless because I've not slept since about October the 12th.
Has it been a horror of a week for you, Matt?
I've been through hell. And a disclaimer, I cannot be held responsible for any of the language that I use in this episode. It's Halloween.
It is. I don't know if everybody else will be quite as big a horror nut as
you
kind of I am. Well, not a horror nut, but just Halloween in general. Just everything about it. I love the decorations and the movies and the atmosphere, and I love all that. So I was in my element for this. Now, tell us how this is going to go, Matt.
Yeah. Well, it's all rooted in the fact, really, that we're just so different. Because there's so much that I hadn't seen from the horror world, the horror
not
genre.
Really a horror fan, are you, Matt? Really?
It's not that I don't like them. It's just the end, and I go, yeah. Okay.
You don't gravitate towards them. I think.
No, that's definitely true. Whereas you watch them on an annual basis, like most of them, and you revel in it. You know, you bathe within the horror.
That makes me sound really weird.
So we knew we had a lot of films really that we had to fit in. So this is going to be almost a rapid fire episode, comprised of micro reviews, basically, from all sorts of different categories. So you're going to be covering a lot of family favourites to classic horror to adult horror, and I'm just covering everything that was on my watch list because I haven't seen it before.
Never seen.
Absolutely.
So we've got 8 movies each.
We do.
16 movies in total. And we hope this will be 16 Halloween recommendations for the little kids all the way up to like really great horror movies for fans. So let's just give them a little bit of a background. So as we've said, Matt's not really a horror aficionado, let's say. So most, if not everything, am I right in saying you had not seen before?
No, I've not seen any of these.
Yeah, so this is a first-time watch for Matt, so which makes this an extremely interesting episode, and I have not heard any of his reviews. I don't know how he's felt about these, so this is going to be interesting for me.
You can tell by my nervous laughter how this is going to go.
That we may not see eye to eye at the end of this.
But the thing is, a lot of people don't watch horror films because they will say that they just can't cope. You know, it's just that it's too much. But for me, it's not necessarily that. I don't watch them because I'm scared I'm going to be scared of them. It's just I don't always find them that clever.
As a genre.
I think there's been absolutely some standouts in the last couple of years. I think Us and Get Out and Hereditary, and it follows things like that have actually pushed the conceptual side. So I have enjoyed those a lot more. But this list there's some of the biggest names on the list of horror films. Really, I don't know how I've gotten away with it. Really, for so long.
Neither do I. Really, I'm glad that we did it because at least you've now ticked them off your list.
Absolutely. And you, on the other hand, could probably quote half of them, if not all of them.
Probably at least half. So for me, I've come from the complete other angle. I haven't watched that many horrors actually this year. I just haven't been in the mood. So for me, I have gone down more of a like family friendly route. So the animations and just ones that I've watched as a kid that I grew up with that I've watched umpteen times. They were the kind of ones that I was wanting to watch. Some of them I haven't seen for a couple of years or more.
Really making use of your Disney Plus subscription.
You know, I have for some of them. So for me, I've had a wonderful time, as opposed to you.
It's been a mixed bag. A mixed bag, but I guess we'll find out.
We will. I'm very interested.
We've got 8 different categories. So do you want to kick us off with your first one?
Yes.
Here we go. Rapid fire recommendations. Go!
My first category is adult horror. And this is pretty much the only horror you're going to get from me, so, enjoy it. So the first one is, I'm going to start with my absolute favourite horror movie, which is Poltergeist from 1982. So the premise of this movie is basically, you meet this lovely suburban American family, and they live in this estate, I would say, of all these houses, and they are one of the first to have lived in this house. And they have 3 kids, a teenager, a young boy who is an absolute wimp. Just putting it down there right now, he is. And then they've got the youngest, Caroline, who's 5.
Yeah.
And right from the very beginning, something's not quite right. She's talking to the static on the telly. If you're old enough, you'll remember that the channels didn't actually always carry on all the way through the night. They used to stop and there would just be static. And she's talking to the static. And it kind of goes on from there, and it seems quite interesting at first. The chairs are moving, and it's like, oh, this is quite, fun. And then it's not so fun. And Caroline is taken within the house. She can still be heard, but she's not there. She's been taken by something, and the family have to try and get her back. That's the premise of the movie, basically. Now, this movie has Toby Hooper's name on it. He's the director. But there's controversy that it might have been Steven Spielberg who did the majority of the movie.
It reeks of Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, it has his name all over it. It is just so him, and I really do think it probably was him. It's just his complete style. It's not an out-and-out scare. It really isn't. But it's got some really great moments. So for me, the defining features of this were the cast. The cast is they really feel like a family. The couple feels real. They feel like they've lived in these characters for ages. And then also the house itself, it's so kind of cozy. It's like an American home. It's got posters of Star Wars on the wall, and it just feels real. So you're in that setting. My highlight moment for me, I think, is when it all kind of starts to come to a head. I love when they get in. This lady, I've got to tell you what she looks like. She's about, I don't know, 3'2". Yeah, she's very, very small lady. She sounds like Lisa Simpson. She's called Tangina. And she is a medium, and she comes into the house. And my favourite moment, and it's not big, it's very, very subtle, really, is her coming to the house and walking around it and telling them what she feels.
Everything from then onwards, it got much better for me.
So that's my highlight moment. So that's Poltergeist. I really, really recommend it because it's brilliant.
Yeah, I ranked it at the bottom.
You ranked it at the bottom. Yeah, I know you weren't. I know you
I'm
weren't
glad
a fan.
she got taken.
No, I know you weren't a fan of Caroline at all.
Not at all.
No. And then on the other end of the spectrum, my second adult horror is the film I watch every Halloween without fail. I watch it on Halloween night, and that's The Exorcist.
Lovely.
I just think this movie is, again, horrors from years ago, the classic movies. They don't really have the same effect on people of our generation and after, because we're just desensitized to what we've seen now is just so much more vivid, and there's so much more to it that this I'm not saying boring, but it doesn't have the same effect.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, so it's not scary in that sense. However, it has such an atmosphere, especially as it builds, and I should say The Exorcist, if you don't know, it centres on an actress who's working in Washington, and she's got a daughter staying with her, and they're renting this house, and the daughter has been messing with a Ouija board. Why you have a Ouija board in the house with a child, I will never know. Absolute idiots. So anyway, she's been messing with a Ouija board. Obviously, bad things happen. And she gets possessed by none other than the devil himself.
Unbelievable.
So they have to get help. So a lot of the film, and I've just read the book as well, and an unbelievable amount of the book, it's all trying to find out what's wrong with her. The fact that she's possessed is not something that they come to quickly. So a lot of the film, it doesn't really get to that part until, ages into the movie. You're like thinking, where's all this stuff? It's very, very slow burn. It builds and builds and builds as you start to see little things, and you notice that things are wrong, and she's starting to change a little bit. And I have to say, for me, the actor who plays Father Karras, because I've never ever seen him in anything else, but he's absolutely brilliant. He was called Jason Miller.
Oh, okay.
He is an absolutely amazing feature of this movie for me. I also think Ellen Burstyn as well, playing the mother, Chris McNeil. She's brilliant. And the cast, Linda Blair as Reagan. I mean, everybody knows Linda Blair's name because, she's Linda Blair, and that's it.
Turning head.
Literally just for The Exorcist.
Yeah.
Now, the moment for me, my highlight moment, has got to be when he goes into the room for the first time and he talks to the devil. It's chilling.
It's quite disturbing, isn't it, really? Usually when a child's involved in a horror film, even if they're possessed, it's still just in the realm of them being a child still. Does that make sense? But she literally had her body,
violated.
Yeah, absolutely the right word. It's very disturbing.
To the point that they actually didn't use her for some of the scenes. They used an adult double because it was just too much for a young teen to be able to handle or want to subject to.
Yeah. I mean, no crucifix should go in those orifices. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. So this I would absolutely recommend for Halloween night. Yes. I would put this on. It is one to watch in the dark with the candles on. It really is creepy. Brilliant movie. So that's my 2 adult horrors, and it all gets nice and friendlier from there.
Not for me. You spoke about atmospheric slow burners. That's the title of my first category, and there's some massive names already in here. So the first film is Halloween, the original Halloween from 1978. I watched it today, and I originally had it in a different category, but after watching it, my God, it is the slowest burner of them all. It's not in a bad way, it's definitely atmospheric, but in the sense of not really much happening, I suppose.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say you got a massive payoff for the time that you invest in it. No one dies for about an hour, and no one discovers a body until 15 minutes before the end. But that's not, like I said, it's not a bad thing. Everyone knows the story. I'm not going to cover the stories of these. They're so well known. But what I really loved about this was the representation, I suppose, of Michael Myers. Initially, you start with just point of view shots, like looking through windows or through the eye holes in his mask. And then a little bit later, you start to see him sort of stepping into frame, or you'll be looking over his shoulder, or you see him from the neck down. So we're teased a little bit more. And then you start seeing it from Laurie's perspective, Jamie Lee Curtis's character. He's across the street at a distance, or he's behind a bush, or he's looking up at her window.
She's brilliant as well.
She looks about 40 years old in this, though.
It's her first role. I think she was 19 when she made this.
I think it's the Cardigans aged them all a bit. I thought, why are all these babysitters in college at 40 years old? I don't know. So what you find yourself doing is looking in the background of all the shots to see if his face turns up, because there's moments where he's there and then the camera moves away slightly. When it comes back, he's gone. Love that. But the scariest thing about him and about the film really is just he's a blank, vacant figure, really.
You get nothing from him.
Exactly. You've got his mask, so he's completely faceless. He doesn't really seem to have a motive.
Nope.
If he has one, I'd like to know. He doesn't have a voice, but we do hear his breathing, which is really unsettling, and sometimes that's how you know he's nearby. So yeah, it's a fantastic character, despite being a lack of character at the same time. And then the last thing I just want to mention is the music. Can't quite pin down why it's so creepy, and I think it's probably just because it's so simplistic. And it's an unusual combination of instruments. You've got obviously the repeating piano, but then you've got this like a rapid stopwatch-like sound, and these electronic.
The fact that John Carpenter made it himself as well is, I think, I always find that absolutely amazing, because he authored this entire thing. He wrote the script, he made the film, he wrote the music. It's like completely his.
Yeah, and then just to round off for each of mine, I've put together what the moral of the story, because I'm coming at it from the first time, I have to take something away. The moral of this story is babysitting. It's not worth the money. And stop throwing that knife away. Stop dropping it.
Exactly.
So if you enjoy being stalked, you'll love this. Which is a nice segue really onto film number 2, Friday the 13th.
I haven't seen this.
Oh, have you not?
No, I've only seen clips of.
Well, I'll just say there's a reason I've grouped these two together. Because if you enjoy being stalked, you'll love this. What I liked about this, first of all, is that before you even got to the main setting, this camp, Crystal Lake, it's like a summer camp with lots of cabins and stuff. You hear from the residents of this very remote town that it's jinxed and it's cursed, and then you've got Ralph, the town lunatic, basically saying that, you're doomed.
Are there actually kids in the camp then? Because all of the people are older. Are they just staying there?
They're like setting it up. It's been out of use for a while, and the man's sort of re-establishing the camp.
Okay.
And these are the counsellors that have been brought in, and they're making the final preparations and stuff.
I'm guessing they didn't go ahead with it afterwards then.
Well, I won't spoil anything. But because there was a drowning in the past, a little boy called Jason drowned. There was some murders the year after, and then there was some fires the year after. The culprit was never found. So in a way, we don't fully understand what's happened in the past. And in the same way, you don't really fully understand what happens at the end of the film either. Is Jason alive? Is Jason dead? His mum's involved. You know that much.
Yeah, she's a bit of a nutter.
She's a mad, yeah.
To put it bluntly, I've seen that bit.
But what you do get is this sense of foreboding all the way through. Like the second you get there, your attention's drawn to the fact that there's axes and machetes and hammers and bows and arrows and potentially deadly coffee-making facilities. And the camera, a bit like with Michael Myers in Halloween, it assumes the point of view of an onlooker. So it's always looking from the trees and looking through the windows, like someone is stalking them.
Yeah,
exactly. Which is exactly what is happening.
They are being
obviously,
watched.
obviously, they start getting hunted down one by one.
Obviously.
But what I thought was interesting is they don't realise that it's happening until much later on, because they're only getting picked off as they leave the main group or the pairings that they're in, because they're all going off and having quickies with each other and stuff. So yeah, and last thing again, I like to mention the music. So there's parts of this that was very much like Psycho, and a lot of these films have very Psycho-esque music, but there was an extra human element here that just gave it that really sort of disturbing feeling of a man watching you, and it's this it's very unsettling.
Again, it's well known. It's such a huge element in a horror movie. I mean, it is in any genre, but for horror, it's key. It's one of the massive parts of the making of a horror movie.
So overall, moral of the story, camping is dangerous, kids. Just always be supervised by a responsible adult. Preferably not one whose son drowned in the lake that you're going to be swimming in. And just always listen to the crazy person. They've obviously seen something. So yeah. That's the atmospheric slow burners.
So my next one is Halloween staples. So these are ones you must watch at Halloween. I mean, I don't know anybody who's not watching them because they speak Halloween. So
no, I don't know anyone.
The first one is a Disney classic. It's a Disney original movie from 1998. It's Halloween Town. It is what it says on the tin. So basically, you've got these kids. They live in I suppose you could say the Muggle world, the normal human world. They don't know, anything about who they really are. And Debbie Reynolds, who is my absolute favourite, I've met her. She plays their grandma, and she's a witch, a Cromwell witch. They're very, very, great. And their mother married a human and doesn't want them brought up that way, but they end up going to Halloween Town, and there's this big plot to take them back to the Dark Ages and take over the humans and rule them. And they basically end up having to save the day. Simple as that. Very short, about an hour and 20 minutes. But just, it's full of colour. It's lovely. It's what a kid who is interested in Halloween would love. It's full of witches and ghouls and ghosts and all sorts of things like that. And it's so great for the family. This is really suitable for any age. I think 5, 6 would be fine with this one. I know, because I was watching it around about that age. I've been watching it for a while. And it's brilliant. I think Debbie Reynolds is just standout. She's just lovely. The girl who plays the main character, Marnie, she's brilliant in it. She brings this real just humanity to it. It's lovely. And just the atmosphere, I think, is what it does for me. And I think the defining highlight moment for me is the end, where they kind of beat the baddie,
when it ends.
to speak. No, when they beat the baddie at the end, and I won't go into it because that would be a spoiler. So that's Halloween Town.
I'll have to check it out.
Definitely must watch. It's on Disney Plus. right now. And my second one, which is even more of a Halloween staple for me than Halloween Town. I know, how can that be when Halloween is in the title of the first one? But it's Hocus Pocus. You just don't get any more Halloween than Hocus Pocus. It's just
I have seen
perfect.
this one, but I can't remember it.
And this one's more for the, I mean, don't get me wrong, you can watch it for as a kid, but this is more for like the teens, as you start to get to your teens. So you've got a family moved to Salem, and it's famous for having the Sanderson sisters, who were witches who killed children. More specifically, sucked the life out of them and kept themselves young. And there is this black flame candle, and they cursed it when they were hung. If a virgin lit the black flame candle, then they would be able to come back. And you get this idiot, absolute idiot, who's a virgin, of course, lights the black flame candle, and they come back. So, it's just a bunch of Hocus Pocus. No, it's not. Not when you light the candle.
No.
So it then becomes a race to send them back where they came from, basically. Because if they manage to do that and they get to sunrise, they will turn to dust. So that's what they're trying to do. And obviously the witches don't want that to happen. So they're trying to find more kids to suck the life out of, basically. But this is just, it's brilliant. So key features for me, Bette Midler. Bette Midler. She's, oh God, she was just made for this. The script is incredible. It's so full of one-liners, and it's, like you said, I could quote the entire movie because it's so quotable. There's so many things. It's on t-shirts. I'm wearing my Glorious Morning Makes Me Sick top today. It's just, so the script is brilliant, and I think the environment where they filmed it, I'm not sure if they were actually in Salem. I don't know, but just where they filmed it and the houses and just the whole thing, it really sets you up. It's perfect for around autumn and Halloween. Perfect. And it's got a belter of a showstopper song in it as well, because obviously Bette Midler's in it. She has to sing, you know. So that's Hocus Pocus, and that's my Halloween staples. You must watch them this week because Halloween's nearly done.
Or you will die. Sorry, I tried to sound threatening, but it just comes out camp. Anyway.
So what's your next one then?
The next category is one I invented earlier today. It's hybrid horror movies. So these are ones that sort of merge genres together, or they kind of subvert your expectations of what you would expect. Which is what subverting expectation means. So I'm starting again, first time watch, Scream from 1996. First thoughts about this: it's so obviously made for the 90s blockbuster video store era.
Oh yeah.
And also around that time, it was, the age of MTV, celebrity culture. Even serial killers could get celebrity status at this time. I mean, it's a very natural born killers era. But also around that time, films and video games were to blame for, youths and violence and all that kind of stuff. So in a way, the film's not a really good counter argument against any of that. All you need is a VHS player and a local fancy dress shop, and even you could be a serial killer. So I think it's kind of edgy in a way, because the filmmakers must have been going, I wonder how many copycat killings we could make on the back of this. I don't know if there were any, probably.
I hope not.
But overall, the film's just really clever in its sort of meta, self-reflexive technique, really.
It knows what it is, doesn't it?
100%. And it knows what it is because it references every other horror film under the sun, and it exposes their cliches. In particular, things like the rules of surviving a horror movie and things like that. So as a result, what it's able to do is to either conform to the cliches, mock them, or just completely subvert them. And I think it does all three in a way really well. And that's why the story works, because as one of the characters yells, it's a formula, everyone's a suspect. And it's true, because there's red herrings everywhere about who the killer is. At times it's like they're screaming the answer at you, but you just can't trust what you're being told. And then there'll be times where they bring every single suspect into the same place. In fact, they do it a few times. So you've got the boyfriend, the friend, the policeman, the reporter, the cameraman, the bitch at school. Even her missing father's maybe one of the culprits because he's gone missing, obviously. So you play the game, and you end up looking at the timings of things and what people are wearing and what the voices sounds like. And one by one, you think you can start discounting the suspects, but Can you? Don't know. Moral of the story, if your town enforces a lockdown because of a deadly killer, don't break the curfew to have a big ass house party. You'll probably die.
That goes for other lockdowns
Eras.
as well. Don't be having
Exactly.
big parties.
I'm glad you picked up on that.
Yeah.
Overall verdict, it's ironic that it's not really supporting the whole violence and, watching horror film thing. But ironically, I felt much better prepared after watching this. So yeah.
So it worked. It did its job.
Yeah, and don't watch Scary Movie first because it ruins it.
Yes, I would say, yeah that's probably a no-no.
Mm-hmm. And then we're jumping back quite a few decades to the earliest film here. So this is Carrie.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love this. It does not feel like it came out in 1976. It has that sort of timeless Stephen King quality to it, which I really love. So Carrie, as a character, she's extremely shy. She doesn't really fit in. And the sort of two aspects of her life that we see. There's the school side where she's bullied horrifically. I mean, it's like...
Oh, it's horrendous.
Pushed to the limit kind of bullying.
You actually feel okay for what she does at the end. It's like, go on, Carrie.
100%. Yeah.
You get him.
Yeah. It's really interesting because obviously she's horrifically bullied right at the beginning because she gets her period in the showers at school and she doesn't know what it is.
Her mum's a frigging psychopath.
Yeah, so she's this preachy religious fanatic, i.e. she's God's gift and everyone else is a sinner. So when Carrie gets her period, she beats her with the Bible and drags her and locks her in the cupboard.
I'm assuming she got hers, though. So what did she...
What
happened when she got hers?
Yeah, and she got pregnant with Carrie before marriage as well. So she hates Carrie because she's a product of sin and she's just projecting all this self-loathing onto her. So she's imprisoned in her own house.
So basically, she's insane.
100%. And it's because of all this that she then develops these telekinetic Matilda powers that she can unleash when she's angry.
This is not like Matilda, guys. Do not let the kids watch Carrie.
Well, I don't think it's that bad. Lots of boobies at the beginning. I was like, what are these?
I was not expecting you to say that.
Oh, there's boobies everywhere.
I was so shocked.
But you touched on it really, that it's a very different film in the sense that the monster isn't the monster at all. It's everybody else that did this to her. And you feel so sorry for her because she's so innocent. She's never done a thing wrong. So that when you get to the sort of the conclusion of the film, which is the epic prom scene, which I think transcends whether or not you've watched the film, and there's this massive contrast between Carrie actually finally being happy for the first time ever. She looks amazing. A guy actually likes her. She's apparently won prom queen. And then we just watch the whole thing get pulled out from under her feet in a split second, and all hell breaks loose, but it's spectacular. And yeah, more of the story, calm as a bitch.
What you just said then is quite interesting. It's very Frankenstein-esque. Like, you feel complete sympathy for the creature because she is a product of other people's making. Yeah, basically, very much like Frankenstein's creature is. It's quite 100%. Similar to that.
So yeah, bullies will get what's coming to them, and Christians. No, I'm joking. But but we need better sex education in schools. Wasn't quite as bad as my school prom.
Oh, wow! It must have been a really bad prom.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's in Bolton.
I'm taking us right back to your early childhood now with spooky animation. So, obviously, the first thing I'm going to mention is The Nightmare Before Christmas because, I mean, spooky animation. I mean, is there anything else? So, I'm not even going to tell you what it's about because who's not seen The Nightmare Before Christmas? Halloween, Christmas, taking over Christmas. Yeah, it's that simple.
What's this?
Exactly. So for me, I love the look of this. I mean, Tim Burton owns spooky animation. Basically, he's had The Corpse Bride and Frankenweenie, and he owns that part of Halloween, I think. And the look of this movie, it's just gorgeous. I've always been fascinated with it. I absolutely love it, and claymation and using stop motion is just fantastic. Yeah, I think everything kind of came together with this one. It's like lightning in a bottle. They had an amazing voice cast: Danny Elfman and Chris Sarandon and Catherine O'Hara, and it's all like brilliant voices, and that kind of really captures everything you want the movie to be. the plot itself is very simple but really interesting. It's a great premise for a movie, a kids' movie especially.
It's original.
Yeah, so original.
Sort of Grinchish, but not.
Yeah, I think the thing about Tim Burton as well is his style is completely his own. Nothing looks anything like it. And you know his style immediately.
Was this the Henry Selick one as well?
Yes. Yeah, so it's very much like nothing you'll have seen. None of the creatures, nothing looks like anything else, and nothing has since. And I think that's what really works for it. And obviously the other thing is the songs. They're just brilliant. Danny Elfman, it's full all the way through. There's a great score all the way through. There's music throughout this. There's rarely a moment without it, whether it's the score or the songs. And my highlight moment of this is what's this? I absolutely love that scene. I really do love it. So that's it. That's The Nightmare Before Christmas. Cannot recommend it enough. My second one, again, Tim Burton, because there isn't really anybody else you can go to, and that's Frankenweenie, which I rewatched this year. I have only seen it, I think, once or twice before that, and it's a gorgeous film. It's on Disney Plus at the moment, so you can check it out now. And this is based on the Frankenstein story, but with a boy and his dog. So his dog dies in an accident, and he brings his dog back to life, basically, and then the story goes from there. It's so clever, this movie. It's based on a short that he made at Disney in I think it might have been the 80s, before he got fired from Disney.
That's right, yeah. We did mention this.
Yes.
I remember this.
Yeah. So I'd have made him crawl, me.
Yeah.
But
you want my Frankenweenie now, don't you?
Yes. So it's so clever because it's very classic horror. And I'm talking like universal horror, Frankenstein, Dracula. So all of the elements that we know so well from classic horror, you see them throughout the movie, like little touches here and there. You're like, yes, that's so and so, and that's so and so, and it's just brilliantly done. Gorgeous black and white. Feels old school, even though it was made this century. You wouldn't know it. It's absolutely brilliant. And I think the standout moment for me would have to be, I don't want to really spoil it, but there's no other way of saying it, when they bring him back the second time towards the end. I think that's a really kind of great moment, very moving. And that's spooky animation.
I haven't seen that one.
I'd give it a go. I'd give it a go and look at all like kind of the classic cliches, I suppose you could call them, the references.
Well, yeah, I'm coming across the board really, like the horror. I mean, I didn't know this so much because I hadn't seen them, but I knew they referenced each other and they paid homage to each other, but not to this extent.
No other genre does it. No other genre does it anything like this. But that's almost the fun. That's why you watch horror. You know that it's predictable. You know what's coming. It's fun to see those things, and that's kind of what Scream builds on. Why Scream's so popular, because everything that you find fun about a horror movie, you're gonna get. And that's why you go. That's why people go back again and again.
I see.
So I give that one a go.
Good point. Okay.
On to you.
Right, next is a category that you can tell I just made up out of the blue. Practical effects was the link here, I think. So I'm going to start with A Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984. Before I get onto the practical effects, I've got to say I love the idea of the concept of this don't fall asleep, because you know that you can't stay awake forever. Sooner or later you are going to have to face Freddy Krueger.
I'd prefer Freddie Mercury if it was an option.
Well, I just wrote Freddy and I forgot. But then there's parts where you're sort of tricked as well, because is the character asleep? Are they awake? Are they dreaming? Are they daydreaming at one point? Especially when dream and reality start to blur, like people are getting scratches and burns, and you think, oh God, I actually don't know anymore. So I quite like that threat that there's something real within the dream and there's something dream within the real. I know what I mean. So special effects and practical effects. things like I think her name was Tina, her death at the beginning, and she's like up the walls and on the ceiling, and then just covered in blood, and it's all writhing around. I think for the time that was really, really convincing. And then Johnny Depp, his first role, he has a similar bed death. He gets sucked down into his, and then blood erupts out like a volcano onto the ceiling.
Can I just tell you a really funny story about how he got cast? So basically, they didn't know who to cast, and they put the pictures of these few that they were considering in front of the daughters of the filmmakers, and they went, that one. He was the most gorgeous one.
He'll look good in tight pants.
So they picked him based on what the daughters said,
right.
Which I always thought was really funny.
That. And look where he is now. Well, maybe not. It's funny, never mind. So yeah, other practical effects. Freddy appears at some point from behind a very thin tree. He walks through some jail cell bars. He bends walls. He removes his own face at some point. It's all quite tame, really, compared to what you would get nowadays. But it's suitably effective here, especially because it's meant to feel dreamlike. But some of the effects surprised me how good they were and how well they were pulled off, and they actually surprised me. But yeah, as an overall thing, looking wider than the practical effects, I'd say the number of decent scares in this film are probably outweighed by the predictability and the campness, really.
Yeah, I think half of it's the fun, isn't it, in this one? It's not necessarily going for the out-and-out scare.
No, but it's always hard to tell. Sometimes I'm not sure, but there was lots of horror movie running.
There always is. Kind of a horror movie with no running.
And then Freddy Krueger, although he is quite scary, I suppose, but his only objective is to, he just shouts, "I'm going to get you," and that's not necessarily terrifying. If you're gonna get her, come on. But it's more the idea, I think, that you can't escape the dreams. So, moral of the story: if you're gonna run away, actually run. Don't do this half-assed jog, flapping your arms about. And yeah, I enjoyed it as much as my last visit to the dentist, and let's just say I haven't been back there since. So, a little underwhelming, but I'm glad I've seen what the fuss is all about. I'm sure it's scarier at the time. So you won't be
watching the sequels?
Probably not. I can't imagine they'll get better.
Probably not. I haven't seen them, so I can't comment.
Yeah. Well, I highly recommend not watching the first one. It's all right. It's good. And then next is The Thing, for slightly earlier, 1982. Or as I call it, Alien on Ice. Same basic premise as Alien, with single isolated locations. This is like a scientific research base thing in Antarctica, and then there's a crew of scientific colleagues who are all picked off one by one by an alien being that was discovered under the ice. Now, I think an element in this that some of the other films are lacking is this mystery. I think it elevates what a horror film can be. So here the characters have to work out what the thing is, where it came from, and what it's capable of in order to stop it. Again, it's quite like Alien. But there's also an added extra threat that if it escapes, it can spread throughout the human population. The whole world would be infected within less than 3 years or something. And on top of that, because the creature mimics the biology of whoever it infects, it means that the crew can't trust one another. It blends in. So they start becoming quite divided, taking sides and turning on each other. So I thought there was an extra added element there of like looking at human nature and how, a bit like with Lifeboat in Hitchcock, how people react when you're stuck together and you don't trust anyone. In terms of practical effects, this is great, really. Like Alien, I'm going to keep saying that, all these alien human animal hybrids and transformations, they're quite gross and biological looking, which makes them, I guess, quite realistic, even though they're completely unrealistic. Quite a clever balance to get. And just watching something like a man turn into something completely other is quite disturbing. But yeah, moral of the story is we can't let the polar ice caps melt. Fuck knows what's under there. Really enjoyed it.
I don't remember a lot of the film, I'll be honest. But the thing that stands out, and I have not forgot it, is the blood testing scene. That was
very good.
So well done. It just built in tension. Yeah. You were just waiting and waiting.
It's the Poirot moment at the end of Who Done It.
It was great. I really, really liked that scene. I thought it was probably the best in the film. It really stood out for me.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree, actually. Felt bad for the dogs, and I'm going to get onto this. Dogs dying in these films. Stop it.
No, don't hurt the animals. kill as many people as you like, but leave the animals
take the
alone.
children. Take the children.
Okay,
Anyway.
So my last section is family favourites. So this could be any family, or it could be my family specifically, because I know that we watch these a lot growing up. So I'm going to start with Casper, actually, because I want to save my favourite till last. So Casper came out in the 90s, very 90s Disney-esque kind of movie. I don't think it was Disney who made it, but it's got that feel to it. It had Christina Ricci, who was big in the 90s. She was a big child star. It also had Bill Pullman in it. So you had that kind of regarded actor, highly regarded actor. And Casper, who it was so well done. I think it was based on, was it comics? Casper was a comic, was it? Or a cartoon or something. And this was the first live action making of it. And it's a great family movie. It goes into a little bit more detail in the movie how Casper became Casper.
And those 3 extra ghosts, the cousins or
his
something,
uncles.
His uncles, that's the one.
I can't remember the names of them now. No. I think it's like Stinky's
one,
definitely
one. Old one.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
One of them's called Stinky, definitely.
Yeah.
And then you've got
Lard Arson something.
Stretch, Stinky, and Fatso.
That's it.
That's
not
the
Lard
names. That's the names of his uncles. Disgusting uncles who are terrible. And all Casper really wants is a friend. And Christina Ricci moves into this old haunted house. And basically the father's sort of a kind of medium-ish, well, it's not even a medium. He's kind of he's a doctor trying to help people, but really he's chasing after the ghost of his wife who died, and he's moved to this big haunted house. And it all goes from there. But I can't even highlight why I like this so much. It's just one of those pure 90s family movies. It's just great.
It's one of the ones I'd seen. In fact, I watched it not long ago because I was hoovering my room with the handheld Hoover, which isn't.
Hoovering your room.
Yeah, well, I thought I'll put it on, and it just sort of stayed on afterwards. I just kept it on because I remembered it. I was remembering it.
Yeah, I think most family 90s kids films you would just keep watching. I think that you have that element to them that's really great. So I'd really recommend it. It's suitable for kids of any age, really. I would say. 6 plus, because there's nothing really anything in it that's remotely bad. So I'd say this is a great one to watch. But it's not available anywhere. So I had to watch my DVD. It's not on any of them, which is terrible. It's coming up to Halloween, and Amazon, Netflix, or Disney Plus don't have Casper. It's terrible. You want to do something about that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'll save my favourite to last, because this film is I just absolutely love it. It's part of me, this movie, and it's The Addams Family. Absolutely adore this movie. Yes, I heard the clicks.
I did the clicks.
It is just... they've done it multiple times. It's been done on TV. There's been movies. There's been animated movies. There's obviously just been an animated movie last year.
Yeah, that has.
But nothing captures it quite the same as the 1991 movie does. It's none of them have matched it in my opinion, because it is perfectly cast, and it's another one of those. It's a bit like The Witches, funnily enough, which I will be watching tomorrow. I would have watched it tonight, but we're recording this because it's just come out on Netflix.
Irregular schedule this week.
Yes. It's a little bit like The Witches, the 90s version, in the fact that it's grown up. It's not playing down to children. They're just playing it straight, which is what The Witches does pretty much. I think that's one of my key features for the Addams Family, is that it's played completely straight. And that's what works. It's perfectly cast. The cast is brilliant. Christopher Lloyd and Angelica Houston. Christina Ricci's in this one as well. And it's brilliant. I love them. But for me, it's the script. So just like the lines in this, what makes it so funny is the fact that it's the opposite of what normal is. So, for instance, just as an example, please pass the salt. And Morticia says, what do we say? And Wednesday goes, now. Like, it's stuff like that. It's, hilariously funny. It's the opposite of what you would expect.
Yeah, but they react normally.
Yeah, it's very, very funny. Like the children trying to electrocute each other, and the scene where Wednesday walks out with this knife for Pugsley, and Morticia's just like, "Is that for your brother?" And she goes, "Yes." She goes, "No," and she hands her this massive cleaver-like axe. It's like, instead, you're thinking, normal parent would be like, "No, do not have sharp things," and she's like, "Yes." It's brilliantly done, and so, like I say, it's played straight, and that's why it works. So I absolutely recommend it. It's hilarious, brilliant. Gotta watch that one.
Yeah. Okay. So last sorry. Oh dear. Okay, last section. The scariest section. Left till last. This is just contemporary favourites, not necessarily my favourites, but ones that I know were talked about all the time. That get brought up a lot. The first one is the Babadook from 2014.
Is it that far away? 2014. Jesus.
Unless I've written it wrong.
No, you're right. But
I think
God, that's gone quick.
First thing that struck me, Australian sort of indie horror film. I didn't know, so that was a nice surprise. Yeah. It was different, and then I guess. It sort of sounds bad, but it's good. We're so used to having a man present in the story to sort of save the situation.
Yeah.
That it's another reason why this feels different, because it's the single mum and her son.
Yeah.
But the annoying theme of annoying children is still present here. He needs a slap.
Oh, he's so weird. I didn't understand whether he was supposed to be like that or not.
I just don't know. Well, all that aside, some great artistic choices. I really like the style of this more than anything.
Yeah.
Especially with the sound and leading up to, say, the first half of the film, because it's hypersensitive. The shot will cut away to something that's loud, so rather than giving you a jump scare, it gives you more of just like a sonic wake-up call. I suppose. It's hard to describe. There's probably a word for it, but it keeps you unsettled, because every time you think you're safe, nothing's actually happening to make you unsafe, but the filmmaking makes you feel
it's unnerving, uneasy. Very unnerving.
Yeah, even when nothing else is happening, it's just setting you up for what's going to happen. I've also written here that there was some cool slow and fast motion moments, but I couldn't tell you what they were. So, but yeah, I really liked at the end of the day that it was a play on grief and trauma and PTSD and sleep deprivation.
Very much psychological than just horror.
Than anything else, yeah. And in the end, sort of the demons in the house were her demons, if that makes sense. I quite like that.
I remember being a little bit disappointed in this because
yes, I also wrote that word.
Because the look of the book and the style of that, I wanted more of that. And it turned out to be more like this kind of normal suburban looking house, and it just it didn't have that element I was expecting from the look of what the book and the character looked like.
Yeah. Well, it's almost exactly what I wrote. I said, overall, I'm not sure if it was exactly what I expected. From the outside, you'd expect you'd see more of the Babadook as the character in the book. But in the end, it's not really about a haunted book. It's not even really about a haunted house. It's not really a creature. It's not really a possession.
It's the woman's issues, really.
I think while it's great to have that underlying subtext, which was really clever, the surface stuff kind of needed to organise itself a bit more and decide what it was going to be. Because every time they superseded, say, the book with the possession, or the possession with something else, I've stopped caring about each one as it went along.
Yeah.
Because it was shifting too much. But it's a shame, really, because the first half, when nothing was happening, was absolutely petrifying. So, moral of the story is, if in doubt, put them in an orphanage and stop killing dogs.
I forgot about the dog.
But yeah, I think I maybe missed a little bit in the middle because I lost consciousness. But overall, it was really good. Really, it was good. Really, but it hurt my heart.
Now, I'm really interested in this last one because this is from the 20th century. This is my favourite horror movie that's come out.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would agree.
So go on. What are we talking about?
This is The Conjuring from 2013. Based on a true story that probably never happened. Big turn off for me in horror films. Don't tell me that. No, it's not.
Well, you don't know.
No, I do. And literally, you're just setting people like me up to just be more skeptical than trying to actually absorb me and what you're going to show me. Don't bother telling me it's a true story. Let me decide whether or not I think it's realistic enough. That was point one. But I thought I've got some good points in here actually. God, they're really trying to make paranormal investigation cool. You know, they were like superheroes. Like, what do people call you? Well, some people call us demonologists. Some people call us ghost hunters. We just call ourselves Ed and Lorraine. It's like a bad X Factor duo.
I really want to read their book. They have a book. I really want to read it.
Yeah, quite good. I just thought they were almost like little mini celebrities because, in all fairness to the film, it's set in a period that I really like. It's at a time when all these new scientific and electronic devices and techniques were being popularised, and
was it the late 60s or early 70s? Was
I think it was 71. I think
70, yeah.
But it reminded me of that series Mindhunter when psychoanalyzing criminals was getting popular, and that was a new trend. It reminded me a bit of that.
It was very well cast, I think, those two.
Yeah, they looked a little bit modern, like, you know, really perfect Hollywood 21st century teeth and stuff. But yeah,
don't think they can help that though.
Makeup,
unless they want to change their teeth.
Yeah, but...
no, too white. No.
So this was directed by James Wan, wasn't it? Who previously did a lot of the producing of very similar stuff. He did manage, I will say, to bundle all the cliches in. So we've got creaking doors, slamming doors, knocking doors, rocking chairs, bruises, giggling, dead dogs, please stop killing the dogs, wardrobes, picture frames, smelly demons. Smelly demons, is that a thing?
Yes, it's the smell.
Favourite line in the film was when the possessed mum takes some of the kids back to the house, and on the phone they've just heard that this happened, and he said, "The girls say she smelled like rotted meat." It's a bit harsh. Yeah, they sort of crammed everything in: ghosts, demons, exorcisms, witches, children, creepy dolls, possession, possessed objects. Yeah. It's a bit too cluttered, I think, but I liked with this one that the stakes felt high. People were actually genuinely getting hurt and ravaged in the night.
Yeah. Those kids could have got killed.
Absolutely. Why didn't they? One criticism, I don't think we needed to see and hear the ghosts so much.
I disagree.
It's a bit too literal.
I love that, and I loved the Bathsheba storyline about, you know, the witch.
Oh, the witch. Sorry.
Yeah, the witch.
I clearly paid attention.
Yeah, she was the one who jumped off the wardrobe. Scariest fucking moment in the whole film. I went to the cinema to see this, and I swear to God, my sister nearly broke my fingers.
I think that, like, for me, putting a face to the unknown kind of ruins the unknown. There's something about that for me. I like being left to imagine it a little bit. But the voice, like, they literally had people whispering to them going, "Hello, come over here." And I thought, that's not that's just a normal
I'm the
person's
opposite.
voice.
I think I like the visual because I find that very scary. It's the visual part of it. Like, those frigging feet were scary enough, just seeing those feet in the basement.
There was feet?
You know, when she's fallen through the floor and then she sees the hanging feet.
You mean the bit where she falls right through to the bottom of the house?
Yeah, she was right through, yeah.
And then to look for her, he's in the living room tapping the walls. So she's clearly in the flipping basement, isn't she? Jesus,
I don't think he thought she'd fell through that far.
Call yourself Ed and Lorraine. More like Ed and useless. So moral of the story is, if the
don't buy a creepy house.
If the dog doesn't want to come into your new house, you probably shouldn't have moved there.
That's very good.
Because this has got a bit of a side plot, and I know this has some sequels and prequels. If you're going to buy a doll, pick one that you wouldn't mind getting possessed, because it would just save a lot of stress down the line. If it's something that you don't mind looking at, it probably won't be, half the aggro, will it?
In reality, it's a Raggedy Ann doll. So it didn't look anything like that. They made it look scary. A Raggedy Ann doll is not scary. It's those cloth dolls with the ginger hair.
Oh, right.
It's not actually scary in real life. But that one they made.
That one in particular, yeah.
Yes,
so
they made it look like that.
Yeah, so all in all, I would rather lean over a Bunsen burner, I think. No, it was quite good. It was quite good, to be fair. I would just make sure you've got some towels or some tenor lady on standby or something just nearby. You never know.
I'd like to know what you think of the sequel. You should watch the second one. See what you
Right,
think, because that one's
okay.
set in England,
Ooh,
based on a case in the 70s, the
right.
Enfield haunting. So that's worth looking at.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
It wasn't the worst, to be fair. I quite liked it.
Yeah.
But yeah, things like when the photo frames all dropped off the wall, that they mastered how to do a loud jump scare. Whether or not they were scary or not, like they were loud. And I watched them with earphones. So it's very loud.
So that's
yeah.
it. 16 movies in an hour.
You lucky lot.
Hopefully you've found some really great recommendations there for the next few days or Halloween itself.
Probably already watched them.
You've probably already, if you're anything like me, you've probably watched them already and have been for the last 3 weeks just to get prepared for Halloween.
I hope then, more than anything, hearing a 27-year-old ex-film student's impression of these very
famous,
highly
films. Regarded horror movies.
Yeah.
And what Matt would rather do instead of watching them again.
I like to think that I see something that other people wouldn't see. Don't know if that's true or not, but just, the dogs have to stop dying.
Yes, I would absolutely agree with you there.
It's not fair.
So always the dog.
They've never done anything wrong. It's not right.
No.
It's terrible. Not right. So if you were to, let's say, recommend one of these films that you've said today, which one would you put on a pedestal?
Oh, God, that's so difficult because they're all like that for me. Can I pick two? One adult and one kids? Go on, let me. It's Halloween.
You can, yeah.
Okay. So, even though it's my favourite, I'm not going to say Poltergeist. I'm going to go with The Exorcist because I think if you're going to watch one for Halloween, it's got to be The Exorcist. I think you've just got to. For the atmosphere, it's so creepy watching it on Halloween. And then for the kids one, I've got to go with Hocus Pocus because Hocus Pocus is becoming huge. Have you noticed? It's everywhere. Everyone's talking about it.
Sort of.
Quoting, and it's becoming this huge thing.
I think it's been out long enough now. A lot of the other 90s ones where the next generation's actually interested now.
Yeah, and they've just announced a sequel that all three are coming back for as well. So.
Yeah, of course. I've just realised that the scariest thing in this episode was me referring to the next generation.
That we're no longer a part of. We're in the last one.
You're as young as you feel.
Yep. That would be about 50
12,
if
I
you
imagine.
go by my body then. Creaking knees, bad back, terrible eyesight.
Just a corpse at this point, aren't you?
No offence to 60-year-olds, I'm sure some of you are fine.
It's a fiddle. I'm going to recommend Carrie this week.
Of course you are.
Really caught me. It's been on my list for ages.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember why this one was on my list more than others. I think just more of a curiosity thing and the Stephen King element. But I just absolutely loved it. It was nearly perfect. If they hadn't have used the Psycho music, which for me was a bit of a distraction, because using that in the most intense moments of your film, but by consequence making you think about a different film, kind of takes you out of what you're watching.
Most people probably wouldn't think about another film. I think it's just you being the film person that you are.
We sort of go, you're in the story, and then something big's about to happen, and it goes, wee, wee, and you think, oh, that's Psycho. And then you start thinking about Psycho for a bit, going, is it? Isn't it? Yes, it is, actually. But actually, no, I genuinely thought it was brilliant, and it's got a very high school film feel about it as well. I said it was a bit like Grease and Mean Girls.
Yeah, I haven't
like that.
Read Carrie. It's one of the ones I haven't read, but I have heard that it's one of the better adaptations of his books.
Right.
And that's it.
Absolutely.
16 recommendations, and hopefully something for you. And we've got a big break now, haven't we, Matt? We're going to have a rest.
This is technically, I suppose, our 1 year anniversary. We probably recorded our first episode around this time last year, so we've actually done a year of podcasting. So yeah, we're having a mini break.
Yes,
just to celebrate.
Yes, we're going on holiday.
Yay!
Sort of.
Love
it. So we'll be back sometime in November or December, and until then, enjoy Halloween.
Yeah, indeed.
And get excited for Christmas.
Oh, it's not far off, is it?
Well, I will be well into my Christmas films by the time we come back.
by tomorrow afternoon.
No, 10th of November. Come
right,
on,
sorry.
save every year.
I should have known.
So it's bye for me.
Yeah, and goodbye from me. Sleep tight.